I never planned on going to war with my neighborhood HOA. I just wanted a quiet piece of land where I could raise a few animals and finally breathe after 15 years in the city. But some battles choose you. My name is Ryan Calder, and 6 months ago, I bought a 5-acre property on the edge of Willow Creek Estates. It was one of those newer developments where the houses sit on generous lots but still fall under strict HOA rules. The previous owner had left behind a sturdy barn, a fenced pasture, and a massive, opinionated Charolais bull named Brutus. Brutus wasn't a pet. He was a 2,200-pound guardian with a calm temperament most days and zero patience for nonsense. The breeder who sold him to the previous owner described him as protective of his territory. I quickly learned that was an understatement. The trouble started the first week I moved in. I was still unpacking boxes when I noticed a silver Lexus SUV cutting across the back corner of my pasture almost every morning. It would roll through an old, overgrown gate that had clearly been used for years, follow a faint dirt path through the grass, and exit onto the main road that looped around the neighborhood. The driver never slowed down. Dust would rise behind the tires, and my horses would scatter. At first, I assumed it was a lost delivery driver. Then I saw the same car do it 3 days in a row. On the 4th morning, I walked down to the gate with a pair of binoculars and waited. The Lexus appeared at 7:15 sharp. The woman behind the wheel wore oversized sunglasses and had perfectly styled blonde hair. She looked straight ahead as if my pasture were a public throughway. When she passed, I caught the HOA sticker on her windshield and the custom plate that read Pres 1. Linda Hargrove, HOA President. I did some research that evening. The neighborhood covenants were clear: no unauthorized use of private property. The old gate had been installed decades before the development, back when the land was just farmland. Legally, it belonged to me now. The next morning I met her at the gate. "Morning," I said, raising a hand as she slowed. "I'm Ryan Calder, the new owner here." She lowered her window just enough to speak. "Yes, I know who you are. We approved your purchase." "Great. Then you'll understand why I can't have vehicles cutting through my pasture anymore. It's stressing the animals and tearing up the ground." Linda's smile was polite but tight. "It's just a shortcut, Mr. Calder. Everyone's used it for years. It saves me nearly 10 minutes getting to the clubhouse for meetings. Surely we can be reasonable neighbors." "I'm happy to be reasonable," I replied. "But this is my land. I'd appreciate you using the actual roads like everyone else." Her expression didn't change, but something behind her eyes hardened. She drove off without another word, the Lexus bumping over the grass harder than necessary. That was the beginning. 2 days later, I received the first official HOA notice. It claimed my fence line was visually unappealing and needed updating within 30 days. The next notice complained about Brutus's size and suggested he might be a nuisance animal. A third letter questioned whether my barn met architectural guidelines. I attended the next HOA board meeting. The community center was packed with the usual mix of retirees and young families. Linda presided from the head table like a queen holding court. When public comments opened, I stood up. "I'd like to discuss the shortcut through my back pasture," I said. "I've asked Mrs. Hargrove to stop using it. The repeated traffic is damaging my property and disturbing my livestock." A murmur went through the room. Linda leaned into her microphone. "Mr. Calder, the board has reviewed this. That path has been used informally for over a decade. We're asking for neighborly cooperation." "With respect," I answered, "informal use doesn't create a legal right. I've spoken to my attorney. I plan to close the gate and reinforce the fence this weekend." The room got very quiet. Linda's face flushed. "You'll make enemies doing that, Mr. Calder. This community values harmony." "I value property rights," I said simply, and sat down. That Saturday, I blocked the shortcut. I replaced the old wire gate with a heavy steel one, added a lock, and ran fresh fencing along the entire back boundary. I even installed a trail camera aimed at the new gate. Brutus watched the entire operation with mild interest, occasionally snorting as if approving the work. The first violation came Sunday morning. The camera footage showed Linda's Lexus pulling up to the new gate at 7:12 a.m. She got out, tried the lock, then shook it angrily. She stood there for nearly a minute, hands on hips, staring at my pasture like it had personally insulted her. Then she got back in her car and reversed with enough force to spin the tires. I thought that might be the end of it. I was wrong. The campaign began in earnest the following week. My mailbox filled with violation notices for imaginary infractions. Someone reported my trash cans weren't properly hidden. Another claimed my mailbox post was 6 inches too tall. A third accused me of operating a commercial livestock facility in a residential zone. Then came the anonymous complaints to the county about Brutus. They claimed he was aggressive and a danger to children. Animal control showed up twice. Both times the officer left after seeing Brutus calmly grazing and me providing proper documentation. I stayed polite but firm in every response. I documented everything. Meanwhile, the shortcut remained closed. The breaking point arrived on a warm Thursday evening. I was in the barn when I heard an engine revving hard. I stepped outside to see Linda's Lexus stuck halfway through a gap she had apparently tried to force in the new fencing. She had driven straight into a reinforced section, bending the steel post and popping 2 rails. Brutus stood 20 yards away, head raised, watching. I approached slowly. "Mrs. Hargrove, are you okay?" She climbed out of the car, furious. Her designer blouse was smeared with dirt where she'd tried to push the vehicle free. "This is ridiculous. You've created a hazard with this ridiculous fence. Move it now so I can get through." "I'm not moving anything," I said. "You're on private property." Again. Her voice rose. "Do you have any idea who I am? I've run this HOA for 6 years. People listen to me. You're going to regret making an enemy of me." I kept my tone even. "I'm not interested in enemies. I'm interested in respecting boundaries. Please call a tow truck." She looked past me toward Brutus. The big white bull had taken a few steps closer, ears forward, clearly curious about the commotion. He wasn't aggressive, just present. But at his size, presence was enough. Linda took an involuntary step back. "That animal is dangerous. I'm calling animal control right now." "He's on my property doing exactly what he's supposed to do," I said. "Protecting his space." She pulled out her phone with shaking hands and started recording. "This is harassment. You're using that bull to intimidate me." I almost laughed. Brutus was simply standing there, swishing his tail at flies. "Ma'am, the only person here trespassing is you. I suggest you wait for the tow truck on the road." She eventually walked back to the main road, still filming and muttering threats. The tow truck arrived 40 minutes later. I watched from my porch as they winched her Lexus free. She never looked at me again that night. The story spread through the neighborhood like wildfire. Some residents sided with Linda, whispering that I was some kind of troublemaker who had disrespected the community. Others quietly told me they'd always hated that shortcut, but were afraid to speak up. 2 days later, I received a certified letter from the HOA attorney demanding I remove the new fencing and allow established community access through my property. They cited adverse possession and decades of prior use. My own attorney sent a response the same day, a polite but ironclad letter citing property deeds, recent survey results, and photos of the damage Linda had caused. He also included the trail camera footage of her attempts to breach the fence. The board called an emergency meeting. I attended with my attorney. The room was tense. Linda sat at the head table, her face tight with barely contained rage. My attorney laid out the facts calmly. The path had never been a legal easement. No one had ever paid for its use. The previous owner had simply tolerated it. Tolerance was not a right. When it was my turn to speak, I kept it short. "I moved here for peace and quiet. I'm happy to be a good neighbor. But good neighbors respect each other's property. I've offered multiple times to discuss reasonable solutions. Instead, I've received a campaign of harassment. That stops now." A few people in the audience nodded. One older man even spoke up. "Linda, we all know you've been using that cut-through for years. Maybe it's time to just drive around like the rest of us." Her face went scarlet. "This is outrageous. That man is turning this community into a battlefield over a few feet of grass." The vote came back 5-2 against her position. The board agreed to drop their demands and advised members to respect private property lines. Linda didn't take it well. For weeks afterward, she avoided me entirely. But the real change came from the neighborhood itself. People started waving when they drove past. A few even stopped by to introduce themselves properly. One couple brought fresh eggs from their chickens as a peace offering. Brutus became something of a local celebrity. Kids would wave at him from the road, and I started giving occasional farm tours to neighbors who asked nicely. The big white bull seemed to enjoy the attention, especially when visitors brought apples. One crisp autumn morning, I saw Linda walking along the main road instead of driving. She glanced toward my pasture as she passed. Brutus stood near the fence, watching her with his usual calm intensity. She quickened her pace. She never tried the shortcut again. 6 months later, I sat on my porch watching the sun set over the pasture. Brutus grazed peacefully near the reinforced fence line. The steel gate gleamed in the fading light, a quiet reminder of boundaries respected. I had come here looking for a simple life. What I found instead was a lesson in standing firm. Not every battle is worth fighting, but some lines are worth defending, especially when you have 2,200 pounds of calm conviction backing you up. Linda still runs the HOA. She's more careful now. And every once in a while, when our paths cross at community events, she offers the thinnest possible smile. I smile back. No hard feelings. After all, Brutus doesn't tolerate trespassers, and neither do I.